welcome back to my channel. This video is super exciting for me to film because it has been so highly requested here on my channel, and that is the Skinny On protein bars. So this video has been highly requested, and I'm not surprised because there are like literally 1 million protein bars out there on the market, and they all have all these different claims, and it can just be really hard to know like what is, the best one or what are some of the better ones that if you're going to eat a protein bar, which ones should you pick? So since there are a bajillion protein bars out there, I obviously can't go through every single one of them in this video. We'd be here for days. So instead, I picked out 4 different bars that I'm going to kind of analyze with you guys, and that way you can see, what I'm looking at, what are the key things to, look at on the food label, and also ingredients and different things like that to give you guys the tools to then go out and when you are, in the protein bar aisle being bombarded with 50 different things, you can then pick the best one for yourself. I did just want to say that in this video I'm just going to be focusing on high protein bars. I do think that I will do a separate video on granola bars because I do have some things I'd want to point out on them as well, but that will be for another day, another video. And the very last thing before we get started, if you guys have seen the Skinny On videos before, I have a bunch here on my channel, but usually I always have, the products that I'm talking about here in my hands live, but I decided to kind of go a little more virtual with it and just look up the products online and read their ingredient lists and food labels online. Honestly, because it was just getting kind of expensive to always go out and buy all these different products, especially when half the time they're ones that I specifically don't even want to eat. I want to show you that they're like the ones to avoid. So I was just getting deterred from doing these videos because I was like, oh, I just don't want to go out and spend like $25 on products I'm not going to eat. But it's the same information regardless. It's not going to change the video. I just won't actually have the stuff in my hands. Before we jump into analyzing each individual bar, I did want to point out just some things that I look for on labels of protein bars, just so you guys know, what you should be looking for. The first thing is obviously protein. You want the protein to be decently high. It's a protein bar, that's why you want it, that's why you're eating it. So protein, obviously. You want to watch the sugar. A lot can be very high in sugar, so see how many grams of sugar are in. Also, grams of fat. They can tend to be pretty high in fat depending on the bar, so you want to keep an eye on that, especially how much saturated fat is in it. And then lastly, you also want to pay attention to the sodium. You may not think of it because protein bars are usually always very sweet. Sodium may not come to mind, but a lot of times they do have a decent amount of added sodium in it, so you also want to pay attention to that as well. As far as looking at the ingredient list, you want to always make sure that the first ingredient listed is some kind of protein or protein blend, because the first ingredient on any ingredient list tells you what is the most abundant in that product. So in a protein bar, you want, the most abundant thing in there to be protein. That's why you're getting a protein bar. You don't want that first ingredient to be sugar. It's concerning if there's more sugar than there is protein in a protein bar. So let's just get started. The very first bar I am going to be analyzing with you guys is the ever so popular Quest bar. So the Quest bar is pretty new to the market, and the reason it's made such a big splash and gotten so much attention is because it has a relatively clean ingredient list and pretty clean label, I guess, compared to most other protein bars that are out there on the market. So that's why they've gotten so much attention, because it is kind of like a new idea for protein bars, because usually they have a laundry list of ingredients. I have here on my iPad the chocolate chip cookie dough bar. This one is, I think, probably one of the most popular ones. So that's why I'm going to be analyzing this one. But do keep in mind that the chocolate chip cookie dough bar ingredient list is probably one of the cleanest out of all Quest bars, so this is kind of like as good as it gets as far as I know. So the cookie dough Quest bar has 21 grams of protein, 210 milligrams of sodium, less than 1 gram of sugar, and 9 grams of total fat. You may be wondering how it has less than 1 gram of sugar but tastes super sweet, and that's because they add artificial sweeteners to it to cut down on calories and grams of sugar. They use sucralose and erythritol, which are both artificial sweeteners, and then they also have stevia in there. So protein blend is first, that's good. Next is the soluble corn fiber, which is just fiber, almonds, water, unsweetened chocolate, natural flavors, erythritol, cocoa butter, palm oil, which I don't love, sea salt, calcium carbonate, sucralose, and stevia. So definitely a handful of ingredients in there, but as far as protein bars go, that's actually not too many. I do not like that there's palm oil in it. And the reasoning behind that is palm oil is, of course, very high in saturated fats, but it's the type of saturated fats that are in palm oil that's most concerning. There are different types of saturated fatty acids. Ones that are in palm oil are more atherogenic than others, and atherogenic just means it's more likely to build up in your arteries. So not a good thing. I try to avoid palm oil, so I don't like that it's in here. But other than the palm oil, it's really not so bad. The next bar I'm going to be going over with you guys is a Power Crunch bar. I feel like these bars are pretty popular too. People tend to gravitate towards them, so I wanted to take a closer look and see what's actually going on inside of these Power Crunch bars. So for the Vanilla Cream Power Crunch bar, we have 14 grams of protein, 13 grams of fat with 6 grams of saturated fat, 5 grams of sugar, and 100 milligrams of sodium. Just comparing back to the Quest bar, the one that we looked at first, this one is worse. It has less protein, more sugar, more fat, but it does have less sodium. It has a little bit less than half of the sodium as the Quest bar. So, I mean, that is a benefit, but overall I think the Quest bar at this point is still the better choice. The first ingredient is Proto Whey Protein Blend, so protein the first ingredient, that's a good thing. Then the second ingredient is palm oil. That means there's a decent amount of palm oil in here. I don't like that at all. The next ingredient is enriched flour, and if you don't know what enriched means, it basically just means that they're adding in the vitamins that we fortify all of our grains with in the US, which are niacin, riboflavin, thiamine, iron, and folate. So it's not like bad flour, it's just they add the extra vitamins in. Sugar, palm kernel oil, so another form of palm oil in there. Dextrose, soy lecithin, natural flavors, sucralose, baking soda, salt, ammonium bicarbonate, and stevia. So again, this bar also does have some stevia and artificial sweeteners happening in here. It has the palm oil and then a few other, extraneous ingredients. So this bar is decent. I mean, it's not terrible, but the Quest bar I still think is a better choice as far as the label and the ingredient list goes. So now moving on, let's look at the next one. So for the Think Thin Creamy Peanut Butter High Protein Bar, that is a mouthful. It has 20 grams of protein, 0 grams of sugar, 9 grams of fat, and 300 milligrams of sodium. So I just quickly want to touch on the 0 grams of sugar in this bar, only because it not only has 0 grams of sugar, but it also does not contain any artificial sweeteners similar to the other two bars we talked about. So you may be wondering how it's sweet if it doesn't have any artificial sweeteners or sugar in it. So the reason that this bar tastes sweet is because it contains sugar alcohols. Sugar alcohols aren't necessarily really bad for you or anything. I don't believe that they have any real consequences or major side effects, but one thing that they can do is cause some GI distress. So basically what happens is these sugar alcohols will be traveling through your digestive system, through your intestines, and they are osmotic, meaning that wherever they are pulling water to them. So if you get a big dose of sugar alcohols at once in your intestines, it may pull in a lot of water. It can cause diarrhea and other gastrointestinal distress. So I'm not saying you're going to eat a Think Thin bar and this is going to happen to you, but everyone is different. Everyone has different intolerances of these kinds of things. But it's just something to think about. Are they actually really bad for you? No, but there are other bars out there on the market that don't contain sugar alcohols. So I mean, it's really up to you. It's your decision, but I just wanted to point that fact out. So now moving on to the ingredient list. First ingredient, protein blend. Excellent, that's what we want. Then the next is the coating that they use, which contains maltitol, which is one of those sugar alcohols. It ends in OL, just like alcohol, that's how you know. Cocoa butter, chocolate, sodium caseinate, milk fat, soy lecithin, natural flavors, and salt. So that's what's in the coating, and then continuing on in the bar, glycerin, maltitol again, peanuts, water, peanut flour, canola oil, natural flavors, soy lecithin, and sea salt. So I'm happy this bar does not contain palm oil, but again, it maybe does not have the best label compared to the other two bars that we looked at. It does have a lot of protein, 20 grams of protein. That's only 1 gram less than the Quest bar. It doesn't have any sugar, but it does have those sugar alcohols. 9 grams of fat, that's the same as the Quest bar, but it does have 300 milligrams of sodium, which is the highest thus far. So, each one of these I feel like is kind of a give and take. 300 milligrams of sodium I think is a lot. Basically when they add salt to stuff, it just tastes better. Even if we can't like taste it as salty, salt helps to activate like your taste buds, like literally, so it will just taste better, even if it doesn't necessarily taste salty. So that's probably why they added the salt in there, maybe to kind of mask that sugar alcohol taste. I don't know. I am not in product development, so I don't know, but that would just be my guess. So that again is the Think Thin Creamy Peanut Butter Bar. Doesn't contain palm oil, but it does have those sugar alcohols, decent amount of protein, but also kind of a lot of sodium. So, you know, this bar isn't terrible. It's really not. Is it the best choice? Maybe not, but it's not a bad choice. I think so far I like the Quest bar and then this bar the best. Moving on to our last and final bar, I'm going to be looking at the Power Bar. This is the Performance Energy Bar. And I used to eat these all the time in high school. Like when I played sports, like this was like our go-to snack. I always ate the peanut butter one. So it'll be interesting now, all these years later, to see like what the heck I was eating all the time. For this bar, it has 9 grams of protein, 26 grams of sugar, 4 grams of fat, and 200 milligrams of sodium. So right off the bat, the most concerning thing to me about this Power Bar is the amount of sugar it contains. 26 grams of sugar is a lot of sugar. That's even more than like a Hershey's chocolate bar, which I'm pretty sure has 24 grams of sugar. So that just kind of puts in perspective how much sugar is in this. Other than that, it's pretty low in fat. It's the lowest in fat out of all of the bars with 4 grams and only 1 gram of saturated fat. 9 grams of protein, that is a lot less than the Think Thin and Quest bar, the same as the Power Crunch. Sodium is 200, which is right on par with the Quest bar. It's kind of in the middle. Other than the sugar, the label's really not so bad, but let's take a look at the ingredients. So the first ingredient in this Power Bar is Dual Source Energy Blend, which consists of cane invert syrup, sugar, maltodextrin, that's like a binding, thickening agent, fructose, sugar, and dextrose, sugar. So the first ingredient in this bar, shocker, is sugar. More sugar than protein, not good off the bat. Next we have oat bran, soy protein isolate, so the protein is the third ingredient. Peanut butter, rice crisps, brown rice flour, and then less than 2% of calcium phosphate, vegetable glycerin, salt, potassium phosphate, ascorbic acid, non-fat milk, ground almonds, and then they have iron, B6, thiamine, and riboflavin added to it. So definitely the longest ingredient list by far. The first ingredient is sugar, protein is the third ingredient, also concerning. It has a lot more ingredients than the other ones. So I'd have to say that this is my least favorite bar. If you're looking for just a protein bar, you want it to be high in protein, and this is just not. And the sugar to protein ratio is terrible. I mean, 26 grams of sugar to 9 grams of protein, that's just, I don't like that. So that's it, guys. Those are the 4 protein bars I wanted to go over with you. I'd have to say out of the 4, my favorites are definitely the Quest bar and the Think Thin bar. They both have, you know, their pros and cons. They're both really high in protein. The Quest bar does contain palm oil. The Think Thin bar does contain sugar alcohol. So it's kind of your preference which con you want to go with. The Think Thin bar did have a little bit more sodium than the Quest bar, but they did have similar amounts of protein and fat. If you're gonna pick a protein bar, at least out of the 4 that I talked about here, I would definitely go for either the Quest or the Think Thin. But now you guys know, you wanna look at the protein, you wanna look at the fat, you wanna look at the sugar, and you wanna look at the sodium, and you don't always have to pick the best one on the shelf. That's not what this is about. It's just about being more informed and being able to make better decisions. So that way when you walk into the protein bar aisle and you are inevitably overwhelmed because there's 5,000 different choices, instead of, maybe picking up the one with the cutest packaging or with the best health claims on the front, you have the tools to analyze these bars. You can flip it over, you can check out the ingredients, you can check out the food label, and now you have the power to pick the best one for you. And the best one for you might be the Quest bar or a Think Thin bar, or maybe one bar I didn't even look at or mention in this video. So it really just, it depends on what you like and what you're, willing to eat, and also just try and pick one that's better than maybe some of the other options out there. I just want to say one final thing. Sometimes these protein bars can actually be used for like endurance sports and things like that. Like I know the Power Bar had a ton of sugar in it, but it's supposed to be for someone who is high intensity endurance sport of some sort. So for someone who is, just finished running a marathon, a power bar might not be a terrible choice because, you know, they need that sugar and they need that sodium to replenish their body. For the average consumer that is not running marathons or doing endurance training or any kind of endurance sports, you don't need all that extra sodium and extra sugar. So you want to pick up a bar that's maybe a little bit healthier, maybe a little bit lighter, and that's why I made this video, for the average consumer who just wants a healthier snack option, you know, when they need something on the go. So I hope for those of you watching this video, whether you were one of the ones that requested it or whether you just stumbled upon this video in your YouTube travels, I hope that I was able to shed some light on this topic for you, and I really do hope that you learned from it. So thank you so much for watching. Definitely give this video a thumbs up if you learned something, and if you want to share it with others so that they can learn and take on this information as well. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I make nutrition videos all the time, and I really do love just teaching this stuff and getting the information out there in a way that's easier to understand, because it can be so murky, all of the nutrition BS that's out there. It can be so hard for the average consumer to know what the hell is going on. So I hope that these videos are helpful to you guys. That is why I'm here. That is why I do what I do. Now I am going to stop rambling. Thank you guys so much for watching this video right now, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!
I could, but why would I want to?